Hey everyone, today we're going to do a what paint did we use video for Darkchild from CMON Games Marvel United Multiverse. It's a pretty cool model. It has some effects on it. We used some color shift paint on the sword, some nice detail on it. Those are all the cards that come with her. Some dark colors and dark metals on it. That's the miniature. And we'll show you what paints we used. So the primer we used was Citadel Chaos Black. You can use Vallejo, I use sometimes too, but I find this one has more coverage and there's details and recesses and stuff. It's easier to get to them and get more coverage with this one. So for the darker stone on the base and the rim, I started off with Mechanic Standard Gray by Citadel Color. Then this pot's almost empty, but then I washed it with Citadel Color Shade Non-Oil. Then I went back and cleaned it up with the same color, Mechanic Standard Gray. And on the edges of it, for the layers, I put Basalt Gray by Model Color Vallejo. And for the very edges, on the highlights, I used London Gray Model Color Vallejo. So it looks like the Limbo Demon's hand coming up out of the base there. I used Green Brown Model Color from Vallejo. Then I used Citadel Color Shade Seraphim Sepia over that. Then when it was dry, I brought it back up with Green Brown again, just to give it a little more definition. I used Citadel Colors Abat Hide. So for the lighter rocks, this looks like the runes on it, I did Dark Sea Gray from Model Color Vallejo. And then I did a thin coat of non-oil so it could go into the recesses of the runes too. When it dried, I brought it back up, cleaned up the wash. It's the same color, Dark Sea Gray. On some of the edges, we put Celestial Gray from Citadel Color. And the final highlight, just on the tips there, we put Gray Seer. So for the skulls on the front and the back of the base, I started with Forest Skin from Vallejo. Then I washed it with a thin coat of Agras Earth Shade from Citadel Color. Brought it back up with the same color, Forest Skin. Then on just some of the edges around the eyes, the nose, the teeth, I did Tomb King Can by War Paints by Army Painter. I put medium gray from Model Color Vallejo on some of the edges too. It looks very similar to the Tomb King Can. You could skip that step, but it gives it a little bit more definition. And if you want more reflection, maybe from the Soulsword coming down on the skull, I used Pony Spikes. So for her lips, I used Reddish Flesh from Vallejo. I washed that with Citadel Color Carlsberg Crimson. Back over it was Reddish Flesh from Vallejo. And on the edges I did Brown Rose from Vallejo. So for all her parts of her skin, I used Army Painter War Paints Amber Skin. And just under her nose and a little divot in her chin there, you can put it on the recesses around her eyes too. Cleavage there. And in the abs she has, I put Citadel Color Requiem Flesh Shade. I try not to put it on the face because one, I'm not too great at wet blending or blending it in, and I find it hard to bring it back up and it makes it kind of muddled, so I just put it in the recesses. Then I just cleaned up any mess the shade made and went back over it with Amber Skin. Then I did a 50-50 mix of Amber Skin and Vallejo Game Color Pale Flesh to go over the nose, the chin, raised parts too, on the abs, chest too, and on the edges I did Pale Flesh. The final highlight where I would hit, I put Dorado Skin by War Paints Army Painter. And for the eyes, seem a little tricky, but I learned the trick. I forget what video I watched on it, but once you get used to doing them, it's not so bad. This is the actual brush I used for it. Citadel color small layer brush. So you start off in the eyes just using black first. Doesn't matter how messy it is, try not to go over the cheeks, but it's all black, and I'll show you which one I used. So it's the same black I used for her outfit too, but it's model color Vallejo black. I think the black actually rubbed off, but it's a number rub off too. No, but that's the black I used for the outfit and the eyes. And once the black dries, you take a white and just put it in the little circle inside. And I used white gray from model color Vallejo to do that. You don't want a bright white because eyes, the white in them isn't naturally bright, so that's why I used a little darker. Then when the white dries, you do a smaller circle of blue inside of them. And that was Andrea blue from model color Vallejo. Then when the blue dries, you do a smaller, even more dot of black again in the corners, or depending how you want her eye, where she's looking, just in the center of the blue. It's the same black you use for the outfit and the starting black too. So more of a Vallejo model color black. And then in the very corner where the black and the blue hit, you think you can do it with the tip of your brush. Make sure your paint's watered down too. I just dab it with white. It's the same white it was on the outside of the eye there too. It was that same white gray model color. If you want the reflection to be brighter than the actual eye, you can use a little bit brighter white. So all the leather on her outfit was done with the same black we just talked about in the eye. Model color black Vallejo. Same with her belt too. Gloves. And then if you want, depending how the black dries, you can put some non-oil in the recesses of the gloves. The boots too. So that would have been non-oil. Sometimes I don't put non-oil over black because sometimes it's a little pointless or it makes it more cloudy and you got to bring it back up anyway with the same black. So then I went over the belt with Cherubim Gray by Vallejo, and on the edges of her, the lines there on her leather jacket, and some of the raised parts too I did Cherubim Gray on. Also the handle of her blade, raised parts on her belt, the lines on her leather jacket, and some where the light would hit from the Soulsword knuckles too, I did dark gray. So on her belt buckle and the studs there on her belt, I did Iron Hand Steel from Citadel color. That got washed with non-oil, brought back up with the same color. Iron Hand Steel, just on the raised parts on the edges. We did model color Vallejo, or at least steel. On the darker metal on her helmet, wings there on the side, the handle of the blade, more of the blade here. It's done with game color Vallejo metallic dark gunmetal. It's a really good dark metal if you need. I just started getting that one now, using it. Also on the previous metal, we would have put it on the spikes on her arm too. Same steps as the belt. I washed the dark metal with non-oil. Brought it back up with the same color, dark gunmetal. And just on the edges there, we did Vallejo metal color, dark aluminum. Her X on her pauldron would have been Citadel color, Mephiston red. It got washed with non-oil. Brought back up with Mephiston red. And on the edges, flat lead bottle color Vallejo. So her hair was done with beige model color Vallejo. And I didn't wash the hair this time because the effect I showed you on the next step was the Soulsword. I didn't want to hit it with the wash and it would have been a pain. And you can still get the same effect. Sometimes I used the shade wash from Citadel, but I didn't want it to be too muddled or cloudy with the wash, so I didn't wash the hair this time. So then I took light yellow on the edges of the hair, and for the final highlight, just some of the reflections where the Soulsword would have hit, or light. I used ice yellow from watercolor Vallejo. For the Soulsword, it actually has a color shift paint on it. I don't know if you pick it up a little bit. It goes from gold to like almost a greeny gold. So to activate the color shift, you got to use a black first with thin coats. And you can, if you wanted the color shift to be more shiny, you can use a brighter black, like Abaddon black from Citadel Color, but I used same black as I used on the eyes and the leather outfit, Model Color Vallejo. And the actual color shift paint is Color Shift Metal Green Stuff World Mystic Gold. And you got to do a few coats on this. So I did, I think it was 3 coats or so to get a more thicker coverage of it. And you can tell about the color shift more the more layers you put on. The final step would have been Vallejo's acrylic matte varnish. Now that might dull down your color shift too. So once the matte varnish is completely dry, and what I did too is take another 1 or 2 coats of the color shift again and go back over it on the edges, places where you think it got dulled down by the varnish. And that's Darkchild finished. That's all the paints we used. If there's any other heroes or villains in the game you want to see painted up and see what colors you use, let us know in the comments. And just like most of the stuff you see here on the board and the model, they're up in our Etsy store too, so if you want to check those out and get some of the painted stuff we have, I'll put a link in the description of the video. You can help us out by liking and subscribing, checking out the Etsy page. It'd be appreciated. Thanks for watching.